Well, good evening, family, and welcome to Can We Talk with Pastor Shy. Listen, guys, this is a little bit different for me because unlike Sunday morning where I'm just preaching the word, we're going to be talking about some things, some real life issues, some real things that are happening in society where we can have a candid conversation, something that I might not do on Sunday morning, but I will do tonight, right? Because Sunday morning, we want to dedicate fully to learning the Word of God. But tonight, we just want to talk a little bit about some things that maybe been on your mind, and I want you to hear what I'm thinking, and hopefully I'll get to hear what you're thinking. And so tonight, we're going to be talking about the slap heard around the world, all right? And not only are we going to be talking about it, and if you don't know what I'm talking about the incident between Will Smith and Chris Rock, right? So not only are we going to be talking about this tonight, but really what we want to do is see, did we learn anything since that incident? Now, family, listen, unless you've been under a rock, not even out of the country, I don't know where you have had to have been, if you have not seen nor heard the slap heard around the world. Now, before we dive into this, I want to tell you the first thing that came to my mind is that Chris Rock has a solid chin. I mean, that brother has a heck of a chin, right? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, let's roll the clip so you can see it for yourself.
That was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow.
Wow. I don't know how you felt about that, but man, I still feel some kind of way when I see that thing go down. Now, since that night, right, there has been overwhelmingly multitudes, a plethora of opinions about how people feel about what happened. Now, of course, out the gate, there were a whole lot of women, a whole lot of sisters, including celebrities, who saw this as simply Will standing up for his woman. I mean, there were some sisters who were applauding him, saying, "That's how you do it, Will. Don't you let nobody talk about your wife." At the same time, there were some others, and especially in the black community, that saw this as another stain on our people. Because here we are, having two men at the height of success, and this goes down, not just one black man doing that to another black man, but doing it in front of mixed company, right? Because I don't know if you grew up like I grew up, but there were some things we were supposed to keep at the house, right? And so it's bad enough that it happened, but it was also horrible on the stage it happened on. Another thing that made it bad was that this incident, it overlooked basically the role that he won Best Actor for. Because here you have a black man portraying a positive black man. I mean, out of all the roles that we get to portray, pimps, drug dealers, all these things, here he is portraying a black father, King Richard, who took care of his daughters against all odds. And nobody's talking about that because of the slap heard around the world. Now, another thing that came out of this is that there were many comedians, especially comedians, but other entertainers who saw this incident as a warning to look out for hecklers. Because it's one thing to not like a joke, but now we've crossed the line that if you don't like something that's being said, you can actually go on the stage and attack the person who said the joke. And then finally, it was also a warning or a lesson to any hecklers who thought that they had the status of Will Smith. And if you think that you do, I want to show you a picture real quick of the brother who ran up on Dave Chappelle, right? Because, hey, listen, don't get it twisted. Will had the power, the money, and the prestige to get away with that. But don't try it. I mean, I'm just going to say, don't you do that, because you might find yourself like that brother being carried out on a stretcher, right? So some time has gone past. And now that it's been a few months, I hope that you and I have had a few moments to sort of reflect about what happened. And most of all, learn some lessons that we can take away to ensure that this or something like this does not happen again, right? Now, have you not noticed, for those who applauded Will for what he did, what about the backlash that he's taken because of that hit, right? We talk about careers taking a hit. That takes that phrase to a whole nother level. His career took a hit. Since that night, where's Will been? Right? We had that comic, Where's Waldo? We should have, where's Will? Right? Because we haven't seen him. He's lost endorsements. He's lost probably some movies that he was about to star in. He's lost prestige. He's lost a lot of things over this particular incident. And isn't it amazing how, when you think about that award, he said before he won it that this was his dream, to win Best Male Actor. And in one night and in one incident, how quickly his dream turned into a nightmare. Now, some people believe that Will's response, his actions, the reason he ran up on it like he did, and especially when he got back to his seat, because he did, man, can we just talk? This is the thing. Can we talk? Man, it's one thing to run up on me and slap me. I'm going to have to do a whole nother podcast about how men would rather be punched than slapped. But then you're going to go to your seat and keep cussing at me? Man, good gracious, my. And so some people thought that the reason he did that was because he was protecting Jada's honor. But if you go deeper and if you read his book, you'll find out that Will had some insecurity issues. He talks about when he was a child, his mother was abused and he couldn't do anything, and how that thing never left his mind. And that's another podcast, because we need to talk about mental issues and things that we do now to try to make up for things that we didn't do then. And so some people believe that he was still harboring these feelings of insecurity. With that being said, and if he was already dealing with insecurity, some other people saw this as him responding to Jada pulling the puppet strings, because you remember that look she gave him. Come on now, because remember now, I mean, he was laughing when Chris gave the joke. Will was laughing. And then he looked to his left. And then Jada gave him that look. You know that look. And it was a look that might have tapped into the insecurity that not only he had as a child, but what about the insecurity of the fact that though he was married to Jada, seems like he's still competing with Tupac? Because I can imagine her giving him that look saying, Tupac wouldn't have put up for that. You know what I'm saying? Tupac was about that thug life. You know what I'm saying? So here he is dealing with a woman that he still might feel like he's not measuring up to her ideal man. Recently, and part of what made me want to come back and talk about this is that you guys know that recently Jada talked about this incident on her Red Table discussion. And I'm not sure if you heard her remarks.
Now, about Oscar night, my deepest hope is that these two intelligent, capable men have an opportunity to heal, talk this out, and reconcile. The state of the world today, we need them both. And we all actually need one another more than ever. Until then, Will and I are continuing to do what we have done for the last 28 years. And that's keep figuring out this thing called life together.
Now, I don't know how you feel about it, but I didn't really hear anything that was worth saying. I didn't really hear anything that was worth rehashing an incident that some people have moved on from. Basically, to me, what it sounded like she was saying about Chris and her husband is that my name Paul, that's between y'all. You know what I'm saying? It really wasn't like you heard her standing up for the man who stood up for her. How about that? And up until now, have you not noticed that neither Will nor Chris have addressed the slap? But once again, And the reason why we're talking tonight is my question is, what have we learned since the slap heard around the world? Well, one thing we should have learned out of this slap, guys, is that if you didn't know before, you should know by now that having money, having fame, and having success does not guarantee that we'll have joy, happiness, peace, nor tranquility, right? Because here's what we end up doing, family. We end up exalting people to a standard that maybe they shouldn't have, and we do it simply because they're famous. We end up getting our advice from them. We end up letting them set our standards, right? Relationship goals, Will and Jada, until you find out that the relationship you idolized was not the relationship that was really going on. Maybe we ought to learn that we need to pick better role models. What about that? Maybe there's somebody in your life who's not famous, but they're solid, right? Well, what about that mom, that dad that's been there for you all these years and they slaved and they did this and they did that. But when it comes time to find somebody to idolize, you go to Will and them and you overlook mom and them, right? Maybe we need to change who we idolize. How about the fact that we've learned through this? And I want to talk a little bit more about what we've learned through Chris, because I think Chris taught us a very valuable lesson that we might have overlooked. And it's the lesson of the fact that sometimes it takes more strength not to retaliate, right? Because I know what you're saying. I know, especially my brothers, wish he would have done that to me. Okay, let's play this out. Let's play this out. Come on. So Will goes on stage, slaps Chris, and if Chris was me, when he walked away, I wish I had an animation to show you how much. Here it is. When he walked away, music would have started playing in my head. And you got to be 40 and over to understand this music. But the music would have went something like this. Because we'd have been kung fu fighting. I'd have kicked him in his back. You hear what I'm saying? But let's just think about it. What would have happened had Chris hit him back? And now they're on national TV in front of the world, two black men wrestling and fighting on the stage. Wonder what that would have done, not just to Chris's reputation, but what about the reputation of every black man who's being judged based by what those type of black men of that status would do. But I want to say that Chris taught us a valuable lesson. Number two, well, part B of this, because I'm not on number two, but what keeps coming to my mind is that when I think about him not retaliating, man, that dude got a jaw on him. I'm just trying to figure out how you going to draw back and slap. Okay, I'm sorry. I just can't believe Pookie got a jaw. And so I'm saying that sometimes he tried to show, or he did show us that sometimes it's better to respond versus react. Because how many of us, if we can go back to that moment in our lives that caused us pain, that caused us embarrassment, you know what we say, if I could do it again. But here's what he did. He had that moment within the moment, and he's better for it. How do you know? Well, because he didn't react and he rather respond, his career actually is doing pretty good, right? He has the sympathy of the world, entertainment, and if you look at his shows before the slap, he was going on tour, but he wasn't selling out the tour. But after the slap, man, everybody want to hear what Pookie got to say about getting slapped in his mouth. And the last thing, because listen, guys, I thank you for hanging with me, and I'm not going to keep you long. But there's one thing that I really want to make sure that we walked away from this. This is a very, very serious moment as we close. Here's one of the greatest things that I think you and I should walk away learning from that slap heard around the world. And it is, Pookie got a chin. Pookie got a chin. My God, Pookie got a chin. I'm sorry, I just can't get past that. I can't believe that, man, if I was Will, I'd feel some kind of way. If I run up on you and sucker slap you, and you still standing and you ain't but 35 pounds soaking wet, I'm going back into the gym. Okay, anyway. Pookie got a chin. But listen, family, here's what I'm saying. When we see these things happen, let's not just have an opinion. Let's get some education. Because in everything we see, there is a lesson if we're willing to learn it. Don't let it have to be you, because here's the thing, is that what happened in Hollywood does not happen in the hood. Those that say, I wish my man would defend me like that, yeah, here's the difference. Will slapped somebody and went to his seat. Your man slapped somebody, he might end up in jail or in the morgue. This is why we got to be careful about how we let those in those high positions set our standards, because you cannot have their standard if you do not have their status. Listen, this is Pastor Shy. I thank you once again for hanging with me with Can We Talk. I want to hear from you, right? So at the bottom right now, you see my email address, right? I want you to hit me up directly to that email address. Talk to me about what I'm saying. Are you enjoying it? And I also want to hear, what do you want to talk about? This is our opportunity to have a conversation, right? This is your boy, your pastor, but for a slight second, I get to somewhat take the pastor's hat off and just have an honest conversation. While I'm a pastor, I'm still a black man, and I'm a black man in this country. And I want to have a conversation with some people, and I think that between us, here's what the Bible says: in the multitude of counselors, there's safety, right? This is not just about my opinion. It's about us coming together, bringing our thoughts together, bringing our opinions together. And hopefully, when this is all said and done, we'll all be made better. Because here's the thing, it's amazing what happens when people talk to one another. And so I hope and pray that when I ask you a question, can we talk? Your response is yes. Listen, I'm out till next week. Do me a favor. I didn't say it at the beginning, but I'm going to say it now. Get the word out, right? I want you guys to subscribe. I want you to share. I want you to like, because if we are enjoying this, and I know I am, I pray you are, let's get the word out. And so until next week, right? I look forward to seeing you. Have an amazing week. Be blessed on purpose, and I'll see you soon. Deuces.